identical.
No further payments.
No further payments. Identical. It's a zero cost item to the IDA. The second issue is that right now there's a pilot agreement with up to 2016 at the IDA, because the IDA gave a pilot for nValley to build it out again. This is a building, a part of the city nobody else has been able to develop. There's been no success whatsoever. A lot of criticism, I'm sure, will come the way of the nValley, but I mean, it's done something I think is very important. The proposal is to have the pilot that would end in 2016 end next year, at the end of next year, which I think is a great thing because it brings the building back on the payroll, I should say the tax payroll, so to speak, for the city of Yonkers. It would end at the end of next year. It gives it 1 year for everything to stabilize so we can move forward. The last issue is that the IDA previously approved a lease with the dialysis center. You mentioned before about that. It was a $1.1 million lease payment that was made. As part of the transaction here, the recommendation I have is that the IDA would, in effect, relinquish that lease back to Mr. Cotter's entity. We would be paid back from the IDA $800,000. So there is a $300,000 difference. It's almost in effect, again, this is not taxpayers' money. It's an effort to move this thing forward. I know nValley's looked around extensively at this particular project to get it where it should be, which is in the hands of a successful developer, as all of our projects were, as Ridge Hill was, as Yonkers Alexander Street was. So I would recommend that the board, in this particular case, authorize relinquishment of the dialysis center lease back to Mr. Cotter's entity, and we would receive approximately at least $800,000 plus a small amount of interest payments that would take place. What the end result will be, when that takes place, those three issues, is that all of the debts and obligations of nValley, not just our obligations, all debts and obligations of nValley will be paid for. And certainly I think that's a tremendous situation. You know, the LDCs, and by the way, which I think some people may want to know about, that upon that successful transaction, the nValley Technology Center will dissolve. And just as YASSER, by the way, will dissolve when that particular transaction finishes, and also Ridge Hill will dissolve when the Ridge Hill transaction is consummated pursuant to all its agreements. So again, I think it's a success story. I think the IDA bears a great deal of credit for its ability to move these things forward. We're never going to hear the positive things, we'll hear the negative things about it, but I think it's important to know that the true public-private partnership, which has led Yonkers in going forward, which Mayor McGloin has been the leading factor in this board, has helped so much as it was with the library building, as it was at Ridge Hill, as it was with YASSER, will now, with your permission, take place in nValley. So on the table is those three issues to be approved.
I have a question. With Mr. Kyle, have we done a financial analysis of his capability of performing his obligations? You know, what his current obligations are, what his cash flow is?
The answer is that nValley Technology Center, Inc. is technically the contracting party with Mr. Cotter. I do know they have looked at him. Mr. Cotter is a successful person, I believe.
I understand, yeah.
The answer is yes.
So they've gone through all the financials and they are satisfied that there is the cash flow and the ability to service the obligation.
Correct.
Where's the $800,000?
Come right back to the idea.
That's a question, because you know what type of businesses Mr. Cotter is going to have in the building?
It's mostly to attract, I would say, for lack of better terminology, commercial businesses like there are right now. I know he's had some discussions with tenants, and again, we're not privy to those, and I don't want to interfere with any type of, I think my time is up, I'm sorry.
That's a good way of yanking the speaker.
I think certainly those transactions are clearly proprietary. You wouldn't want us to disclose who the tenants are, but I think the answer is yes. It would be a commercial type of a business that would be, I think, very suited to making the other buildings in the nValley area equally as attractive to people to
As you remember, our intent had always been to use this as a nucleus of redeveloping the Neverhand Valley, which predominantly is some small businesses, but is becoming predominantly self-storage, which serves no real benefit to us for economic purpose. You have only a couple of employees, there's no activity down there, none of the retailers in the area can feed off any activity in the self-storage places, whereas as an office building or research and development or even lofts, which is something that could happen with some rezoning. you would suddenly now have clientele to support a lot of the retailers in the area.
It's a great step forward.
Right.
It really is.
I think it's a great step forward. What's our next move?
Well, I think right now we've dealt with what's on our table, and again, you know, it's we think our best way of attracting people to come into Yonkers and to revitalize it. I mean, we could have a budget of $300,000 for marketing and media. When people see success stories actually taking place, that's the best thing. So we're going to keep on doing what the mayor's asked us to do, which is to do the best we can to safeguard, you know, the expenditures we have. And Ellen has been excellent at trying to move it forward. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing, just work harder at doing it.
And the single purpose, single project LDCs worked. It worked on the library, it worked on Yasser, it's working now on nValley, also on Ridge Hill, and they're a very effective tool. We continue to use them as the case, as the needs arise. So, you know, this won't be the last, but they certainly serve a purpose.
And the LDCs protect the city.
They protect the city.
That's one of the critical issues, which again, people.
Well, that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's, as you know.
You look at the Yasser, for example, you know, tremendous pollution problems. If the IDA had taken it over directly, we'd be subject to that. So those are, you know, the tools that exist, which go back to, I think, 1963 LDCs have been around. So we just created in the last few weeks or months. But I would ask the board to approve those 3 steps so we can make the nValley a success story.
What is our commitment on our lease to Cotter?
Our lease is the same as what it was to nValley. We prepaid it. There's no further obligations, as I mentioned before, to 20 years.
But the first floor, the additional $1 million, that's the one.
That 1.1 I just mentioned, that comes back to us $800,000.
So that's where the $300,000
Correct.
I'll give up.
Right.
Is that a lump sum payment back?
Lump sum, no, a lump sum, and, you know, I look at that unofficially, it's $300,000 as the IDA's investment in having that part of the city move forward. I think it's a great investment.
Dennis, just one question. If the IDA decided in the future at some time to move someplace else, would they sublease that?
The answer is yes.
So we wouldn't lose any money?
No, they could either buy out our lease or we could sell that to someone else.
Just having the IDA there is a tremendous positive thing. It's Ellen and Molina's presence alone.
Well, in addition, it puts the building on the tax roll,
Right.
even 9 years early as that would be.
Which is the,
Exactly.
Or if there are no
What do you think, Mr.
any
Hanson?
other questions?
All right.
If not, there are no other questions. We have a motion to approve the 3 conditions of the IDA's involvement in the nValley, that being condition
The assignment, the assumption, the pilot terminating earlier, and the termination of the IDA lease for dialysis, and that $800,000 return.
We have a motion to approve by Pete, seconded by Mike. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Is there any other business?
Just one thing else, a legal update. The litigation with regard to the Greenbergs and Ardsley's lawsuit against Ridge Hill. And that's been conferenced with the judge for about 3 months now. Mr. Ratner himself was there in court last week. That has not been resolved. That's going to be decided by the judge. The IDA had no part to play in the sense of the resolution. That was between really Greenberg, Ardsley, and the petitioners, and also with Port City Ratner, or FC Yonkers technically. That's going to be submitted to the judge for determination, and we'll see where that goes. But everything we can do, we've done to make sure the project goes forward.
All right, thank you all for coming again, as usual. Thank you for listening.